It's perfect.
Michel, je pense que vas-y, mets ton son. Mets ton son, Michel. Mets ton son.
Okay. No, sorry, that's correct, Colonel. That's Carl. You see Carl upstairs. He owns the Brochure TV. As you know, that's his podcast. I'm just a translator. I'm just the the service guy. And Mr. Bertrand Scholler is from France. He knows about geopolitics, and he was listening to your you appear on your on Daniel David podcast earlier, and he was just wants to know what's all about and things like that. So if you don't mind, we speak about
okay, give me 1 minute. I need to adjust the lighting, okay?
Yes, no problem.
C'est parfait, Michel.
Ah oui.
Donc,
quel anglais?
Oui.
Sorry, quoi?
Quel anglais?
Oui, et je tiens à remercier Michel qui a fait tous les contacts avec le colonel McGregor et on va avoir dans quelques minutes la présence de Scott Ritter qui va aussi venir réagir à la triste nouvelle du départ du général Dominique Delawarde en début de semaine. Alors, Bertrand, oui.
Yes, Carl said, Colonel Carl said, was talking about the sadness and this. We sadly miss General Delaware. He was a very he was like a partner to this podcast, and most of the time we invited him and he delivered his message for a geopolitic message, and we mourn him very much, and that's why we organized something for the people of France, for our people in Quebec also, and to the world, but because you're very renowned now, and we're very happy to have you on this show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I held Général Delawarde in very high esteem. He was someone that I thought was quite remarkable. He was an exceptionally good soldier, a very competent leader of French combat troops, and he understood the world beyond the borders of France very well. I think he had a good feel for Africa and what goes on there and the people. I wish many times that we had a general like Delawarde in the United States Army, but we don't.
Well, yes, that you're right. He was a soft guy, explaining things very good. But I mean, as a soldier, we didn't know him very much, and your testimony will be very much appreciated in regards to this. I'm going to ask a question about for Carl if he recorded that. Carl, est-ce que tu l'enregistres présentement?
Oui, tout est enregistré actuellement.
Parfait. This we will make a little montage, with that podcast and your testimony, just to make sure everything goes together and everything goes right. And that's for sure. We would like to know when have you met him? And I understand he was your I won't say your partner because it's not like in the army speech, but he was with you under your command. We understand. And what happened? And you have any story about him or whatever? Just deliver your testimony.
Pardonnez-moi, je suis américain, mon français n'est pas très bon.
That's good. That's good. We appreciate that.
I got to know Général Delawarde long before he became a general, when he was a new colonel, and he had been assigned the mission of liaison officer with the United States Army's General Staff College. And so while he was there, I got to know him, and I had finished penning a book called Breaking the Phalanx, which completely reorganized the Army. It eliminated the World War II divisions, changed the command structure. At any rate, he took the trouble to read it. And so we spent a lot of time discussing it. because he pointed out that the French military had moved away from the World War II structure and was trying to develop its own approach. So as a result, we spent many hours together discussing the alternatives to the status quo. And that's why I know he was a very competent soldier, because whenever we discussed operations or tactics, he knew the answers. He knew very well what I was talking about, and probably had at least as much, if not more, experience than I did in the field, which I appreciated. And he also understood the Americans he was dealing with, and that's not easy, because much of what happens in the United States in the military is very difficult for most Europeans to understand. But he did, and he managed to make many good friends for the French people. And that ultimately may be the most important thing that he did while he was in the United States. Not everyone can do that. We had lots of different liaison officers from different countries, but he was by far the most successful at cultivating good relations with the United States. We certainly appreciated him.
Bertrand.
Bertrand.
Oui, bonsoir colonel, et enchanté de faire votre connaissance. Alors j'ai une question importante. J'ai écouté votre discours au sujet du risque de guerre entre les États-Unis et l'Iran, plus ou moins à l'initiative d'Israël. Mais j'ai peur à chaque fois qu'on parle de ces choses-là, qu'on parle de la guerre, qu'on parle d'accords commerciaux entre les États-Unis, l'Arabie Saoudite, le Qatar, etc. On oublie sans cesse le désastre qui est en train de se passer à Gaza. C'est-à-dire, aujourd'hui, l'humanité est en train d'être assassinée à Gaza et on parle beaucoup d'autres sujets, d'autres préoccupations, d'autres négociations et on laisse le régime de Netanyahou commettre un génocide. Et donc, je ne sais pas comment insister plus là-dessus, en fait. Quelle est votre vision sur le détournement de l'attention mondiale loin de ce qui se passe à Gaza?
Michel, tu pourrais-tu traduire?
Yes, Colonel. His question, sorry, we switch from one subject to another now.
It's fine.
Bertrand is in France right now, is directly in France on the ground, and we are in province of Quebec. So Bertrand has the European eye, I would say, too. And since you did warn the world, I would say, for a possible conflict that get worsened with Iran, we were wondering about what will be going on. And he said that this will this will change or to make the Gaza conflict outside of that. So what have you thought about what's going on with Israel and Gaza? And do you think there's a kind of relationship?
It's not exactly what I wanted to say. I want to clarify. My question is, now we focus on deals made by Trump with Arab countries. We focus on a possible wars in Iran or intensification of war or maybe peace in Istanbul between Ukraine and Russia, etc. But all this time, we totally forget Gaza. And I don't know if it's part of a strategy to have this genocide move on until there is no possibility to save anything and anybody in Gaza. That's my question. Because for me, what's the most dangerous situation in the world is the fall, the definite fall of Gaza. More than Iran, more because they can fight back. But in Gaza, it's mankind who is it's mankind killed by silence of mankind.
Well, you're absolutely right in your assessment. I think President Trump has great difficulty addressing the Gaza problem simply because he is under enormous pressure from very wealthy Jewish donors to say nothing. and to quietly support Israel, regardless of what atrocities it may commit. Now, I know that President Trump is not happy about this, just as I also know that he does not want a war with Iran. The problem for President Trump has always been the people that surround him and the forces in Washington. Those forces in Washington support war with Iran, with ominous consequences for the whole region. Those same forces are also tightly integrated with the Israel lobby, and they have profited from their relationship with the Israel lobby over many, many years. They are not going to contradict anything that Mr. Netanyahu says or does. So it becomes a question of just how courageous is President Trump. Is he willing to contradict the people that helped buy the White House for him? I don't know. Is he strong enough to resist the tremendous pressure to attack Iran? Again, it's hard for me to gauge that. I know what he thinks. My brief exposure to him taught me that he is absolutely opposed to war, and that under any normal circumstances, he would be horrified by what is happening in Gaza. But he's the prisoner of circumstances and forces over which he seems to have little control. So I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish I could give you some hope, but that's where I see it at the moment.
That's also my view on it. One other question, you know, there was an attempt of assassination on Trump, and few months after he got president, he gave to the public eye 80,000 pages of JFK files, and it's the first time that the hypothesis was given that Mossad could be implicated in this assassination. What's your view on that? Because again, very quickly, you know, people look at Epstein or everything, Puff Daddy, but nobody really dig into this, and it was forgotten as quickly as it appeared. When it was the first time that, for historians, it was the beginning of a proof that Israel was key in all the investigation, but silenced during 60 years.
The issue with Israel has very deep roots. I think it's important to understand that there is no question, but there is evidence suggesting that the Mossad may have had a role to play in the assassination. I have not seen the evidence or the papers. It's not something I read, but I do have friends that are very involved in it. And they tell me, and they're very competent historians, that that evidence is very strong. Pam Bondi, this is a woman who is now the Attorney General of the United States, recently refused to release the Epstein files. And the reason she gave was that it would cause an increase in anti-Semitism. I think there are any number of things right now involving the Jewish community. And I'm not talking about the community right here in the United States, but I would say internationally, globally, as well as in Israel, that could result in ugly revelations of what they have been involved with and done. Remember that in the run-up to World War II, the administration of Franklin Roosevelt was heavily penetrated by Soviet NKVD operatives and agents, and they were overwhelmingly Jewish. After the war ended, the man who was director of the FBI at the time, J. Edgar Hoover, met personally with President Truman after the war. And he said, I want to show you the agents in your administration now who were there under FDR, who are in fact NKVD agents, or at worst, or maybe at best, sympathizers, but overwhelmingly actual agents. And they went through the list, and then President Truman asked, who are these people? And J. Edgar Hoover said, well, they're all Jewish. And President Truman responded, you cannot say that. And I think that about sums up the position that we are in. It was impossible for the last 6, 7, 8 decades for anyone to open his mouth and suggest that anyone Jewish was involved in anything bad. And it's still very risky because of the enormous control they exercise in finance and the media in particular, as well as in the legal profession. So I think this is the beginning of a meltdown, if you will, in this frozen conflict. The truth is coming out, and it's going to come out in greater strength than ever before, because I think that the Epstein files will eventually become public. I'm told that President Trump was shown the files. I don't know if this is true or not, but a friend of mine insists that it is. And he was shown by Pam Bondi what the files had, and he was horrified and had to close it, said, I don't want to look any further. I think he knows the full story. But the problem is, how do you deal with it? Because you don't want to engage in collective hatred. In other words, people are always inclined to hate in the plural, and that always leads to excess and destruction. He wants to avoid that, I'm sure. So I think these things are all inextricably intertwined with each other. All of these things are somehow or another connected.
And you know that the Epstein story is very strongly connected with France and with Paris. You know the Epstein story very connected with Paris. And yesterday I had a long interview with a Russian channel, and they asked me about the speech of President Macron in front of Franc-Maçon.
Just a minute. Okay, we welcome hi. We'll welcome Major Ritter now. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good to see you. And we are with Cal Bourchu, which is the host of that podcast. And we have a special, very special person in regards to Colonel Douglas McGregor, which is with, the U.S. Army. And we were talking about what was going on in regards to, we understand you don't know, you were not involved with General Delawarde. We were speaking about, but Colonel McGregor was involved with under his command. I think General Delawarde was he knew him very well. So when we mourned General Delawarde because he was a special. He used to be on our show most of the time. So that's why we organized that. Plus, we have Mr. Bertrand Chalère from France. He's from France. We are from Quebec, Canada. And Bertrand Chalère is from France. And Bertrand Chalère was talking about the video that Colonel McGregor made on the podcast of Daniel, what is his name again?
Davis.
Daniel Davis, Deep Dive. And we were concerned about, because that was very truthful and that was very strong. I used to say strong words, and was very much appreciate in regards to what Colonel made, and we were talking about that. So,
Michel, juste merci beaucoup à Scott Ritter et au colonel Douglas McGregor. C'est Brochu-TV au Québec qui réunit ces deux Américains pour rendre hommage au général Dominique Delawarde qui nous a quittés en début de semaine. Et on a eu le témoignage du colonel McGregor. So, Mr. Ritter et Michel, peux-tu juste lui demander qu'est-ce qu'il connaissait du général Delawarde et nous donner son impression sur cette grande perte-là. Scott Ritter et McGregor sont deux militaires comme le général Delawarde à la retraite qui ont un regard patriotique sur la géopolitique. Et grâce au général Delawarde, j'ai eu la chance de connaître le colonel Douglas McGregor. Et le général Delawarde m'avait parlé aussi de Scott Ritter, qui était pour lui un modèle qui voulait avoir à l'émission avec nous. Okay. Donc, c'est pour ça que je voulais faire venir M. Ritter aussi. Okay. Donc, juste lui transmettre.
Oui, OK. Oui. Yes, we're glad to have you, two militaries from United States of America. We're proud of that. And Carl told me that General Delaware spoke in a good way about Major Ritter and Colonel McGregor, and he was always be glad. So unfortunately, he quit us last Sunday abruptly. I would say he died from a brain what I can say
aneurysm.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry to say that. So that's why he passed away, and we were just sad about that. And Carl decided to organize that with all you guys together from military, because he was a military and he has his point of view over the geopolitics and over what was going on. And it's good that you carry on with that with us, and you share and pay tribute with him. So my question would be with Major Ritter, what do you know about General Delaware, if you know something, because you told me that you were not with him directly. So we would like to know about.
Well, first of all, let me pass my condolences. While I didn't know the general personally, I knew him professionally, meaning that I knew of him. I've heard people speak about him, and I was intimately familiar with his writing and his words, and deeply impressed with his professionalism as a military man, his patriotism as a Frenchman, and his humanity overall. I have had the honor and privilege and pleasure of working very closely with the French military over my time in the service. In fact, when I was with the United Nations, I oftentimes briefed the French general staff on various operations, and I worked very closely with French officers from all branches. And that's why I know that the French are very professional, and I know that the French take their duty very responsibly. So, and I also learned working with the French military that they, like most of their American counterparts, can separate military professionalism from politics. That their job is to do something from a military standpoint, and if it can be done, they will get it done. But they aren't there. They don't suffer fools, and they aren't there to play stupid games, I guess we could say. And this is what attracted me to General Delaware, because over the course of several years now, we've seen the French government posture aggressively vis-a-vis Russia, especially in terms of its military potential. And it's critical to have French voices, professional voices, voices whose credentials cannot be tarnished. There's not a single person who can say that the general was not a professional, was not capable, wasn't knowledgeable, and wasn't brave. This was not a coward who was trying to avoid conflict. This was a military officer who was being very realistic about what France could and France couldn't do militarily when it came to Russia. And this is exactly the voice you need, because politicians will throw away the lives of young men and nowadays young women without thinking. They view the military as cannon fodder. We've seen this in the United States, tragically, when we had a Secretary of State, I believe it was Madeleine Albright, who once chastised Colin Powell. Why do you have a military if you're afraid to use it? Well, it's not fear of using the military. It's the wisdom of when to use it and when not to use it. And that's the wisdom that General Delaware had and possessed. And, when I received your email, I went through my records very carefully because I wanted to make sure that our paths hadn't crossed. And I'm notoriously bad with names, and so I could have met somebody and not known. And I did find that several years ago, 2 years ago, in fact, the general had reached out to me and wanted to have a conversation with me. And I regret, right? I mean, not because he's gone. I mean, you know, you always, these are things you say, okay, when the time's right, when the time's right. And the time was right now. I mean, now is the time to talk about France, talk about the French potential for military commitment, et cetera. He is the voice that needs to be heard. And he's gone. And let this be a lesson to us all that every day is a blessing, every hour is a blessing, every moment is a blessing. The world is populated with truly gifted people. And when you have the opportunity to interact with these people, take that opportunity. Don't wait until tomorrow, because one day you'll wake up to find that that opportunity will never come again.
Yes, it's not when you're dead that it's time to speak with people or to be good with people. It's when we live, and you guys have deliver message that are very strong. And we appreciate that, that's for sure. Major Ritter, you were talking about the files that you had with him, and you didn't carry on, I think, but because that was probably the time. But that's a very nice message. We appreciate that. If you have a special thing to say about him, what it would be, or a moment that you would like to share with us.
Michel, yeah, go.
Yes.
All I'll say is this: is every nation, has a certain population. In the United States, we have 340 million people. France has a certain population number. Of that population, there are people who are worth a damn, and there are people who aren't worth a damn. But of the people who are worth a damn, you have people who separate. I mean, you talk about, when you break down people, you have, people who hang on to society's coats, live off of society. You have 80% who just tread water. And then you have 10% who actually make the nation great. And of that 10%, you may have less than 1% who are the leaders of those who make the nation great. And General Delawarde was in that top 1%. He was a national treasure for France. And I hope that France, in mourning the loss of this national treasure, will spend some time to reflect on his words and the wisdom that they contain, and hold their politicians accountable for what they're seeking to do in the name of France. The general was leading the charge against stupidity. And his words are as strong today as they have ever been. Even in his death, they resonate. And so it's the duty and responsibility of everybody to, yes, mourn his loss, but make his life live on by bringing his words to the forefront, by using his words to oppose bad policy. So yes, he's gone, but you are a treasure. When there's an old saying that you stick your fist in a bucket of water and you remove the fist, and how big of a hole did you leave? And the answer is you didn't. And that sort of implies that when you're gone, you're not going to be missed. General Delawarde's hand, when it's pulled from the bucket, left a big hole. It can't be filled. He is a voice that will live forever as long as we remember him, honor him, and keep his words alive.
C'est vraiment, merci. J'ai pas tout compris, Michel. On va traduire pour les Français dimanche.
En fait, pour brièvement, ce qu'il a dit, c'est que c'est une grande perte, et puis que la France peut être fière de quelqu'un comme ça. Il va manquer beaucoup à la France. Il va manquer beaucoup au monde, parce que s'il n'a pas une expression en disant, si on veut savoir si quelqu'un est important, mettez votre poing dans l'eau, puis s'il laisse une trace, ben c'est parce que cette personne-là est importante, puis il dit que le général, il va laisser des traces, puis il dit que ça va continuer, parce qu'il y avait un impact qui était fort sur puis des gens comme ça, c'est irremplaçable. Alors, c'est un peu ce qu'il disait le majoritaire. Maintenant, est-ce que...
Peut-être le colonel voudrait peut-être juste répliquer quelques secondes.
Yes, Colonel McGregor, would you add something to that, or would you comment about that?
Général Delawarde was a student of military history, and we once had a conversation about Général Caulaincourt, who was the aide-de-camp to Napoleon. And Caulaincourt advised Bonaparte, after meeting the Tsar for the last time in Vilnius, that he might want to reconsider invading Russia. And Bonaparte apparently said why, and he explained. The Tsar said, you know, we have a large country, and we have been attacked many times. So we will just retreat into the interior, and you will have to march into the interior to reach us. And you're going to find that very difficult. And when you get there, we will be waiting for you in great strength. I think that Delawarde understood the meaning of that particular exchange very well. So when we talked about Russia today, have things changed a great deal since 1812? Sure, many things have. But his basic piece of advice was still valid. Now, I don't know if Delawarde would have been listened to, but if he'd been one of Napoleon's marshals, I'm certain he would have said, forget Russia.
Yeah. Well, many armies broke their nose on Russia because of people, and plus the winter and everything. The terrain is very rough and things like that.
Well, you know, General Delawarde had a good sense of humor, and he could laugh very easily about any number of things. And I remember him laughing about that one in particular. You know, who in their right mind is going to go into that place? And of course, I talked to many, many veterans of the Second World War who were German, who asked me exactly the same thing. They said, good Lord, after you'd gone the first 100 miles, your question was, what the hell are we doing here? There is nothing here. Why are we here? I think that Delawarde was speaking for everyone with any common sense or rationality in Europe. Unfortunately, those two things, rationality and common sense, seem to be in short supply right now in London, Paris, and Berlin.
Yeah.
Mr. Ritter.
Yeah, do you have something to add?
No, I mean, I can't beat a Napoleon story.
Okay.
On va terminer l'émission, Bertrand, avec une question pour Bertrand. Pour terminer, Bertrand, tu as écouté une dernière réplique.
Alors, moi, j'ai une question pour vous deux. Depuis 3 ans, j'essaie d'expliquer que le monde pourra retourner et retrouver le chemin de la paix. So it has been 3 years I tried to explain the people who are listening to me on X, Substack, YouTube, everywhere, that there are 5 people, key people in the world, that if they team together, they can change the course of the world. It's Donald Trump, and he has been elected, so it's good. Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Ben Salman, and Elon Musk. So I think these 5 people together, they can challenge the real devil who is in France, in Paris, is Macron, and is Prince, it's Netanyahu. And then you have a lot of bad guys. But the 2 main bad guys in the world are these 2 ones. But they're so smart, they are outsmarting for many reasons everybody else, that it's only a team of these 5. And when we start speaking together, I wanted to reach that point, but I would like to have your vision on that, because the passions that Putin and Xi are showing to Trump is because I think they understand this. I think the change that Ben Salman has made, you know, doing peace with Iran and etc., not approaching too much Israel, is proof that he knows where is the danger and where are the allies. But what's your feeling on this team of 5 most hated people in the woke world? Because these are the most hated people, and I think they are the best.
On va commencer par le colonel McGregor.
Well, I'll be brief because I've got to leave in a second.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very good question. I would point out that Elon Musk has had surprisingly little influence over these big decisions. He referred to Peter Navarro as retardo in response to Peter Navarro's enthusiasm for the tariff war. I think that's been bungled badly, and we made more enemies than we've started with. So I don't see much good there on the horizon. I think the Ukraine business has been bungled badly by President Trump. He's too easily seduced by people convincing him that he can score some sort of great victory or win for himself and his party if he goes down a specific path, instead of making the obvious true, which is to say, what's happening in eastern Ukraine is of no strategic importance to the United States. It never was and never will be. Our interests historically, and I would argue strategically, really begin at the Dnieper River line that has not been crossed. And he could have recognized that. He could have withdrawn our advisors. He could have immediately suspended aid to the Zelensky regime. And he said all the right things. And then within a very short period of time, people managed to turn him around 180 degrees. And he began repeating the same nonsense that Scott and I and others have listened to for months from the so-called neocons and the war party, which turns out to be the uniparty, as we say, in Washington. Then finally in the Middle East, it did not take a genius to understand that the Israelis were about mass murder and expulsion of the population in Gaza. He too could have acted decisively then and there and said, this is unacceptable to us. As Americans, we will not support this, but he didn't. So I guess my response to you is I don't have a great deal of faith that anything is going to change dramatically. I still worry about the potential for a conflict with Iran that we will not necessarily start, but could still start in the region with the attempt to drag us into it. And I worry about the situation in Ukraine because we continue to fund it. The Europeans, they have their own problems. You have your problems. I strongly recommend you remove the people governing you. I've said that to my friends in Britain, and I've said it to my friends in Germany. The sooner they're gone, the better for everyone, because they're completely out of touch with reality. But I think they know that they are close to removal. These are globalists. They know their cause is dying. And the moment that they opt for peace, they're finished. And so these people are going to cling to the past as long as you let them. Now, having said that, I'm sure I'll get a nasty gram from the State Department later tonight. But since I'm not appointed to anything, they can only criticize me as an independent citizen.
On va libérer le colonel Michel.
Thanks, Colonel. We appreciate your speech that was very, very frank and very direct, and we like that. And thanks very much for your generosity in regards to that. So, Colonel and probably Mr. Major, I'm sorry, Major, I'm civilian.
Mister's fine.
I'm civilian, sorry.
On va garder Monsieur Ritter.
Okay, we're gonna keep Major for a little while. So that's what Carl told me. So thanks very much.
On va prendre maintenant finir avec Scott Ritter pour une réponse lui aussi, Michel.
Yes, okay. He wants an answer from you, Major Ritter. Now, in regards to what we said and in regards to geopolitics and things like that, because Bertrand is an historian and geopolitician. So what are your thoughts about all this and what just said Colonel yes, McGregor, yeah.
Well, first of all, I think you're accurate in pointing out the greatness of Xi Jinping, the greatness of Vladimir Putin. These are two men who allow their nations to speak for them, meaning that they serve their nation, they serve their people, and they let the product of their labors define who they are. I would not call either one of them narcissists. I would throw another name in there as well. Modi, the Prime Minister of India, is another man who is, India is a major player in the world today. They're part of the BRICS Foundation, and their economy is growing, and they play a pivotal role between the West and the East. Trump, he leads a great nation. The United States is a great nation. I don't know if Trump can be called a great leader, though, because Trump isn't about promoting America. Trump's about promoting Trump. And there's a difference between the two men. I take a look at what he's done in the Middle East, and I don't see an American leader imprinting an American vision on the region. I see a narcissist being led around by people who play to him, make him feel great. I see a man who is more about transactional policy than he is about strategic thinking, succumbing to the allure of short-term economic headlines, because many of the economic deals that he signed or agreed, there's a lot of details. The devil is in the details, and these deals have not been manifested. So I hesitate to sit there and say Donald Trump accomplished A, B, C, D, and E. I see Donald Trump shook a lot of hands, got a $400 million airplane, got a bunch of women to wave their hair at him, and got his ego stroked. And that's it. I don't see any major accomplishments. China went there and solved the problem of potential war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, rapprochement, a major diplomatic coup. What did Trump do? He has the chance to make peace with Iran, and he throws it away every time he opens his mouth. He doesn't know how to succeed, because for him, success isn't the success of the plan. It's how the plan makes him look. And if Donald Trump can't look like he's the hero, the knight in shining armor, look at how he embarrassed the United States when he talks about the Second World War. And I say he embarrassed us because we should be proud of our history. I'm proud of our history. I'm proud of everything my relatives did during the Second World War. But I will never pretend that we won that war by ourselves. I will never pretend that the 27 million who perished in the Soviet Union didn't play a major role in achieving this victory. Donald Trump can't handle that. He can't handle the fact that Vladimir Putin had a Victory Day celebration with a major parade that had people loving Russia. This parade wasn't about Vladimir Putin. This parade was about Russia. Trump doesn't understand that. Now Trump wants a parade about him. He wants an American parade for him. Donald Trump's not a great man. Donald Trump leads a great nation, and sometimes that means he's capable of doing great things. But I'm very concerned that Donald Trump seeks only to please Donald Trump. And oftentimes that can put us in a collision course with problems that we shouldn't be. This Ukraine conflict should have been solved a long time ago, could have been solved a long time ago. But Donald Trump needs all the credit. And, that's not how reality works. The Iran crisis could have been solved a long time ago, but Donald Trump needs all the credit. We could have solved the Gaza problem a long time ago, but Donald Trump needs all the credit. And the world doesn't work that way to give him the credit. There's reality at play. And when Donald Trump confronts reality, he tends to pull back and starts to speak critical of the other players and the other actors and the other actions. So I don't put Donald Trump in that pantheon of great people. And I don't see Donald Trump positioned to do great things. I thought he could. I gave him 100 days to prove his worth. But if you grade him after the 100 days, he hasn't accomplished anything of note. He's only gotten us in more trouble, and he's failed to solve problems while creating new problems. And on that note, I too have to unfortunately leave.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ritter.
Major Ritter.
Vas-y, Michel. Un grand privilège.
Je finis là-dessus. Il faut que je le fasse. Major Ritter, thanks very much for that testimony. We appreciate you have on the show, and we're not Joe Rogan. We're not that high, but we're just little, and we appreciate comments from you and from the I would say
Colonel McGregor.
Colonel McGregor, and And well, thanks very much again. It was my pleasure. It was difficult a little bit. I had I had to work to get in touch with you, but finally I got you. Now we're friends. You cannot
escape you.
And Carl was very much Mr. Bertrand Chalais from France, directly from France. So
well, merci beaucoup and Darian. Okay, thanks guys.
Merci. Okay. Bye bye.
Thanks very much.
Voilà, c'était merci beaucoup Bertrand. Puis on va
je ne sais pas avec quoi tu vas monter ça, mais en tout cas.
Ouais, c'est quand même surprenant d'entendre d'un Américain des critiques sur Donald Trump.
Oui. Mais il y a une affaire.
Mais j'aurais bien voulu entendre. Scott Ritter parler de la franc-maçonnerie et de Macron, parce qu'en réalité, personne n'ose parler de lui. C'est toujours, il est un peu balayé, comme si vous lui donnez de l'importance, débarrassez-vous de lui.
Allez, mais ce qu'il réalise pas, c'est
que les gens veulent se débarrasser. Les gens veulent se débarrasser de lui, mais il est de plus en plus fort.
On va le revoir, c'est sûr. Regarde, comment est-ce qu'il était ouvert.